Most of our fiber comes from China, currently sourcing some from France as well, and now looking to the US and other parts of the world to source some fiber.
That's Alejandra Diaz talking about Hemp Fortex. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today I'm going to be talking to Alejandra. She is a hemp entrepreneur and educator dedicated to promoting practices that foster human and planetary well-being. She currently does business development and sales for Hemp Fortex, a Chinese company focused on sustainable fiber with a specialization in hemp. We're going to hear about the work she does there at Hemp Fortex and how she has followed her passion for the cannabis plant into an exciting career in the hemp industry. We're also going to hear about a project I've been working on this week, building hempcrete sound panels for our studio. But first, we're going to take a quick sponsor break and then come back with a few nuggets of hemp news. This episode is brought to you in part by I&D Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they believe in the goodness of hemp. I&D Hemp is a family-owned, mission-driven, and environmentally focused industrial hemp food, feed, and fiber company, providing new opportunities for farmers and rural communities. Their mission is to provide innovative agricultural products and services to connect American farmers with the pioneers and businesses that see hemp as a way to bring real and lasting change to our communities and planet. Learn more at indhemp.com. This episode is brought to you in part by the National Hemp Association. The NHA is a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. that advocates for sensible public policy and regulation. The NHA is dedicated to building a sustainable future and promoting economic development in rural communities. Become a member today and join a thriving community of people with a passion for all things hemp. Learn more at nationalhempassociation.org. Our show is also made possible this week with generous support from Americhanvre Cast-Hemp, which is a perfect segue into the story I'm about to tell you about the hempcrete sound panels that I'm building for our podcast studio. But first, let me tell you about Americhanvre Cast-Hemp. This is Cameron McIntosh's company. So I met Cameron about 4 years ago because I interviewed him on this podcast. He was working with Drew and Anna from Coexist Build. They were making the hemp house on wheels, which was sort of like a prototype, right? Like to show people what the goodness of hempcrete was all about. They built this, little house on a trailer that you could walk into and feel what it was like. And ever since then, Cameron has been on this journey, a journey of education and creation, and he's making a difference here in the U.S., right? Like anyone who looks into hempcrete just a little bit is going to find that Cameron McIntosh has been instrumental in building this industry here. So anyway, if you want to learn more about building with hempcrete, or if you want to hire somebody to build your house out of hempcrete, you should talk to Cameron McIntosh at Americhanvre Cast-Hemp. That is the combination of the word American and the French word for hemp. It's hard for me to say because I've never studied French, but Americhanvre Cast-Hemp. But luckily, I'm going to put a link to Americhanvre Cast-Hemp on the show page for this episode, so if you can't find it anywhere else, you can always go to lancasterfarming.com. All right, anyway, so I'm going to tell you a quick story about building sound panels. So we have this new studio here in our Lancaster Farming office in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, and the room itself has a little bounce to it. When you record with microphones, you have to be aware of how the sound sort of bounces around the room. You don't really want it to because it creates, just problems. So right now I've got moving blankets hung up around the room to cut down on that bounciness. But the long-term goal was to have sound panels for the walls, and that's what we're building. I asked Cameron McIntosh if he would help me build these hempcrete panels because, I can't do them myself. I don't actually know how to make anything out of hempcrete. At least I didn't before, but now I think I do. This was actually my first time building anything with hempcrete, and it was awesome. So anyway, we built these frames. It was a 2x4 construction, just framing timber, 2x4s, but the dimensions of them are 2 foot by 4 foot. We built the frames, and then we mixed up the hempcrete up at Cameron's shop in Barto. I bought a couple of bags of Ecologic hempcrete binder from limeworks.us. And Cameron had some hemp herds from South Bend Industrial Hemp out there in South Bend, Kansas, which I think is great that their hemp is in these panels because they were part of our journey across the country a couple of years ago. Melissa from South Bend Industrial Hemp invited us to stop by their open house. This was in July of 2021, and we took the tour. We saw the hemp, met the people. We met Melissa and Aaron and Rich. So I'm super psyched that their hemp is in our studio. So anyway, Cameron suggested that we could pigment the hempcrete, so we bought paint. It's called real milk paint. It was a powder that we mixed into the hempcrete mix after, we mixed it up. So we used, I think altogether we used 66 pounds of hemp herds. We used 100 pounds of hemp lime. We put the water in, and then we used, in total, 3 gallons of milk paint. 3 different colors. I had a dark blue, I had a medium blue, and then sort of a pearl white. And if you look at our Instagram page or the show page for this episode at Lancaster Farming, you can see what these panels are looking like. Somehow I've created what looks like a 3-dimensional landscape in shades of blue and white. And I can't wait till it's hanging on the wall here, because not only will it be functional and, absorb our sound and keep things from bouncing around, but it's also gonna be very beautiful. So I'm excited about that, and I'm very appreciative of Cameron for his help. And also that same day, the guys from the One Plant documentary film, Jordan, Maxwell, and Garrett, these are the guys that were out in Montana with us, and then I saw them again at the NOCO Expo a couple months ago. Anyway, so they filmed the whole thing. So you might see these panels in their documentary eventually. So anyway, that's what I did. I loved making the hempcrete. I was busy all day. It's like we worked from 8 in the morning until almost 6 at night. That's when we were all cleaned up. But mixing the hempcrete itself, I was surprised by how food-like it is. Like, it just felt like oatmeal. So I don't know, but it was a great experience. And yeah, like I said, I cannot wait till these panels are hanging here in our studio. And I'm just absolutely grateful for the experience. Anyway, let's turn to a few nuggets of hemp news. All right, so both of our stories here today come from hemptoday.net. And this first one has a local angle. And this is actually my first time reading it. So let's see what it says. Pennsylvania Hemp Initiative aims to build out regional supply chains. Okay. Hemp stakeholders in Pennsylvania have launched an initiative to support the development of regional supply chains for a wide range of hemp outputs. All right, so far so good. The Pennsylvania Industrial Hemp Engine, the PIHE, which this week received $1 million in federal funding from the National Science Foundation, the NSF, will focus on products for construction, packaging, textiles, and renewable energy, as well as land remediation, according to a press release from U.S. Representative Matt Cartwright, who announced the grant. The Pennsylvania Industrial Hemp Engine aims to build a plant and place-based economic ecosystem grounded in innovation, education, inclusion, and translation of technology to industrial applications, according to the organization's website. The project, a collaboration among university researchers and private companies, received the funding under the NSF's Regional Innovation Engines Development Program, a new national effort aimed at speeding up the development of technology, advancing competitiveness, and creating jobs. Yeah, all right. Well, I'm telling you right now that we're going to dig into this a little more. We'll probably interview people from the Pennsylvania Industrial Hemp Engine on future shows, but that's exciting. All right, this next story is also on hemptoday.net, and this one actually ties in with some previous episodes that I've published recently about, the consensus of the Farm Bill. This one says, industry leaders' hemp vision for the 2023 Farm Bill falls far short. Uh-oh. So yeah, with the hemp industry in a deep trough, the U.S. Farm Bill now before Congress is an opportunity for a desperately needed reset. But if a recent Farm Bill position paper endorsed by industry leaders is any indication, they won't be the ones to lead us out of the ditch. Ouch. A nearly $1 trillion spending package, the Farm Bill authorizes agriculture and food policy ranging from crop subsidies to nutrition assistance programs. With a politically divided Congress, this year's bill represents only one of a handful of measures nearly guaranteed of passage. It's a once-in-5-year chance to advance hemp industry goals. A lot has happened since 2018 when that year's Farm Bill set a landmark for industrial hemp by removing it from drug status, making legal any part of that plant, including the seeds and all derivations, extracts, cannabinoids, isomers, acids, salts, and salts of isomers with a delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol concentration of not more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. Remember that stuff? Yeah. Recognizing the potentially thorny problem of CBD, the 2018 legislation held that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration retains its authority to regulate hemp products, including CBD products. But since that time, retain is about all the FDA has done, aside from warning some operators over marketing claims and raising red flags about product quality and consumer safety. Despite the uncertainty, hemp producers rushed almost exclusively into CBD. That means industry association memberships are overwhelmingly made up of CBD-related companies, and therefore, it's no surprise that CBD is front and center in the hemp industry priorities for the 2023 Farm Bill. As the FDA failed to put the brakes on early by writing rules, the CBD market skyrocketed before quickly and spectacularly crashing, exacerbated by the greed and missteps of the middlemen and opportunists who cast CBD as the next big thing while largely ignoring the rich range of all things hemp can be. The CBD obsession, the story continues. Although income from flowers grown for CBD plunged last year by more than 70% compared to 2021, the subsector dwarfed all other hemp categories, bringing in $205 million, or 85% of the total, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The industry groups rightly suggest that regulations for CBD from the FDA are desperately needed to shore up the expiring Farm Bill. While stakeholders may get more than they bargained for, clear rules would go a long way toward protecting the consumers against the many potentially unsafe CBD products now on the market under no safety or other rules, and establish a clear playing field for growers and processors. The paper also called for an increase in THC levels allowable in hemp from 0.3% to 1%, suggesting farmers need relief from the worry that their crops will go hot or over the limit, making them useless. While that's clearly a justified objective, the greater purpose here is also about CBD production. The recommendations don't point this out, but the level of CBD in hemp plants is directly proportional to the amount of THC. Higher levels make processing more efficient. It continues. In other key priorities, the group calls for more USDA funding for state hemp programs, opening up hemp to subsidies other crops enjoy, repealing a ban on felons operating the industry, promoting research and permitting hemp grain for animal feed, and generally reducing red tape. That's all well and good, but hemp industry priorities for the 2023 Farm Bill, that's the name of their document, is more notable for what it does not address. First, conspicuously absent, the story says, is the mention of delta-8 THC. The omission is particularly odd because the Hemp Industries Association, the most prominent trade group among the 31 signatories to the recommendations, already has a firmly stated position that holds delta-8 THC is not a controlled substance under the Federal Controlled Substances Act and should simply be regulated. Others in the industry disagree, the most likely reason the subject is avoided in the paper. But either way, the failure to address this critical issue as a united industry front is irresponsible and shows a lack of concern for public health. Even more disappointing, the story says, is that the industry leaders miss the bigger picture when it comes to hemp, falling short of recognizing this amazing crop's long-term potential beyond CBD. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. It starts with hemp as one answer to urgent environmental challenges, which are drawing a lot of attention in the 2023 Farm Bill discussions. According to the USDA, farming accounts for as much as 11% of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions, but farming, especially growing industrial hemp, can also play an important role in reversing climate change in the food and land use sectors, most importantly, carbon removal efforts. Hemp is unrivaled as a planet-healing crop. Aside Aside from direct carbon capture achieved through farming, products such as building materials result in permanent carbon lockup. Growing hemp is also good for the soil. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This was actually my feelings about that whole priority thing too. Like, yeah, CBD, great and good, but let's focus on the industrial applications that can have the biggest benefit for the maximum amount of people and planet and communities and everybody, which is the environmental things. I know it might be hard to tell as a listener where my commentary starts and where the article ends, but you can always click on the link at lancasterfarming.com and see the story for yourself. This story kind of sums it up like this. It says, by overemphasizing CBD and giving short shrift to hemp's other possibilities, this hemp industry priorities for the 2023 Farm Bill instead clings to the past. Those who compiled it should go back to their keyboards and make another stab at it fast. Yeah. All right. hemptoday.net. I don't know who wrote this because it does not list a byline, but yeah, whoever you are, you're speaking my language. All right, so that's the news from here in the Lancaster Farming podcast studio in Ephrata, Pennsylvania. But that's enough from me. Let's go talk to Alejandra Diaz about industrial hemp and hemp fabric and Hemp Fortex and all these good things. Alejandra Diaz from Hemp Fortex. Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How are you doing today?
Hello, Eric. I am doing fantastic. I am thrilled to be on this podcast. I've known of it for quite a while now, so it's good to be on here.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I wonder if you could introduce yourself a little bit.
Yes, my name is Alejandra Diaz. I am currently in Los Angeles. I'm working with the company Hemp Fortex. And it's been quite a journey with the hemp industry. I've been in it for about 5 years now and doing some organizing and working with another company as well, Hemp Traders here in Los Angeles. And now I've made my way into Hemp Fortex, who is based in China.
Okay, well, let's talk about Hemp Fortex. Can you describe the company to me, what they do, how they do it, that sort of thing?
Yes. So there are many branches to Hemp Fortex. One of the main ones is that they are manufacturers of hemp fabric. The company is vertically integrated, so we oversee and take part in the entire process of the hemp plant and into manufacturing into hemp fabric. The entire process is done in China. They contract with farmers to then collect the plant and then be transported to where they can remove the fiber. We have a few operations and a few different farms throughout China. And so, yeah, we'll collect the fiber and we'll go from there and process it. We'll spin it into yarns and then we'll weave it and knit into fabric. We also have our own dye houses where we can dye the fabric any color that the customer would like. We have wash houses as well, where the fabric can be further treated to give it a different feel, depending again to the customer's needs. And we also have print, so we can go ahead and print onto fabric. So it's fully integrated, and we can do anything that customers can ask us to their fabric. And we can go as far as to making garments for customers as well.
Okay.
So we offer these two programs. They can go towards solely fabric or garments made from our fabric.
Okay. So tell me a bit more about, working with the farmers in China and, how much hemp are they growing? I don't know if you have information about that, but...
We've reached the point that in China now, we're growing enough hemp that we now need to outsource hemp as well. So we are currently outsourcing hemp from France.
Oh, okay.
So a good portion of most of our fiber comes from China. Currently sourcing some from France as well, and now looking to the U.S. and other parts of the world to source some fiber as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine Hemp Fortex isn't the only company in China that's, overseeing growing hemp. Are there are more more companies over there grow. Like hemp is big in China, right? Like it's a big
Mhm.
industry.
Right. There might be others out there, but I will say that we are the largest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
Hemp Fortex is the largest, and that's the way we
That's the,
positioned ourselves.
okay.
The company has very good morals, and I'm glad to be with them because they are socially responsible, and we hold many certifications that back all of our claims that, I mean, nowadays, yeah, people can claim that they are sustainable and that they operate responsibly. But our claims where we are fair trade certified, where everybody in our supply chain has agreed to the exchange of the work and payment, and that the conditions that they work in are to their liking. It saves a lot of the company and more certifications that also state that all of our operations, and like when we talk about like our dye houses, that the chemicals and the dyes that are used in these processes, they're done to the most responsible way.
Okay. All right. That's good to hear. Sounds like you're taking care of your farmers, so that's always good to hear. That's
Hmm.
um, yeah, because without the farmers, there's nothing, right?
Right, right. And the owner of the company, he also has some of his background is also in farming. So that kind of just links some of where he stands today and where he once was as a
Okay.
young child and
Yeah.
his connection to farmers as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, I've been covering the American hemp industry as it's been sort of growing. Are there
Hmm.
any lessons that you think American producers can learn from what you're doing there with Hemp Fortex in China?
Lessons that they can learn. Well, I mentioned to you that I'm gonna go to China soon. So I feel like when I come back from that trip, I'll have a better idea and I can better tell you.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of what I am saying now is what's been told to me.
Right.
And I'm very much of a person of doing and seeing it for myself
Yep.
and seeing and I hope to be able to communicate as much as I can with the colleagues abroad.
Yeah.
And yeah, and exactly ask them these questions about what can be done and what has been done the right way to then bring that onto the US and other parts of the world.
Right.
Um, but I would say that I'm sure they went through trial and error. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the first phases. I mean,
Right.
they've been in business for about 20 years now.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I think it's really interesting that, while the United States, prohibited the growing of the cannabis plant for 80 some years, that never happened in China. So it's like they never lost any time like we did. So they just
Hmm.
they've been growing hemp and making fabric from it for thousands of years, right? So I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot that the American industry can learn from what they're doing there.
Hmm.
So I look forward to talking with you after you get back from China because
Yeah.
that'll be neat. When are you going there?
Could be within the next week or so.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
you'll just get a call one day like, all right, Alejandra, get pack your bag. We're going to China.
It's been in the talks. So
Okay.
we've been discussing and we are seeing when is the best time for me to go and meet the team.
Well, so let's talk about your job at Hemp Fortex. What is it that you do?
Yeah, so right now I'm currently assisting them with business development and sales. Like I said, I'm here in Los Angeles. Most of our team, primarily, is in China. Only myself and our textile designer and engineer are here in the US.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, our textile engineer and designer is in Seattle, and now I'm here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so I was brought on board to introduce and to help place Hemp Fortex at a better standing ground. They've had a presence here in the US, attending expos, where they can have the fabrics on display. Some of these fabrics have been, for example, Outdoor Retailer, which is an expo for the outdoors. And so at expos like this, you'll find gear for the outdoor, clothing, and then you can also find sourcing. And so this is when designers or fabric sourcers from brands will come to these expos and source fabric for their upcoming collections. And that's actually where I first started. I first started with assisting at Outdoor Retailer, this expo in Denver, where I helped set up the booth. That was part of like that was my first job with them. We went over to Denver, helped set up the booth. We put like a poster, put up some racks, and we hung our fabric collection. At this point, we were probably showing about a good 400 or so different fabrics.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, 400 of them were hung. And then the next day we received brands and customers, and we invited them to look at the collection. And a lot of the fabric world has deals with like hand feel.
Mm-hmm.
So they will step into our booth and feel along the fabrics. And so yeah, it can go both ways. They can come in and first of all just feel around and get to know the fabrics, or they can come with a very specific fabric in mind. I'm looking for 100% hemp.
Right.
I'm looking for this blend or this weight of fabric. And yeah, we have manufactured more than 10,000 different fabrics.
Oh, wow.
So this is comprised of different weave structure and knit structure, as well as like weight and composition.
When a lot of people think of like hemp fabric, like maybe it's heavy and durable and maybe a little rough, but that's not always the case, right? Can you sort of describe the range, the spectrum of different feels of the fabric?
Yes, that was once the case, but now we have advanced. Technology has advanced, and we're able to process these fibers into finer yarns and also blend them as well. So finer yarn will give you a lighter fabric. And yeah, if we know linen and how it looks and feels, hemp can be very similar to that. So that's when we're talking about 100% hemp as a woven. Yeah, it can look like linen, but then we can also blend in with some cotton. We can blend in with some recycled polyester. There are new fibers coming online like tencel, which is wood pulp that's been recycled and slightly processed to then make it into a yarn.
Okay.
And so yeah, we are now mixing with wool as well and some yak.
Some
So
yak.
we
Okay.
do natural animal fibers as well
Right.
and recycled materials.
Okay.
That's mostly what we'll focus on.
Nice. Do you have a favorite fabric or a favorite like piece of hemp clothing or?
I have a few pieces of hemp garments now, and I will always prefer 100% hemp. I really will.
Yeah. Why is that?
It was just what it means and what it stands for, and to be clothed in cannabis. To be clothed in cannabis, I love it, and it's an ongoing process of understanding what it means to put on your body. And yeah, absolutely, I would prefer to be clothed in natural fibers all the way. And for a while, I felt like I did have I was clashing with cotton for a while, and I was kind of making it to be like an enemy. Because I mean, the practice that it can undergo, it can be harmful, but if done correctly and sourced organically, and if we talk, the hopes is that these crops are grown regeneratively in the future, if grown in that way, then yes, I mean, it continues to be a natural fiber. So yes, I will continue to choose these natural fibers over synthetics.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, with synthetics, they start to break down. The microplastics go into the ocean. It's like, let's
Hmm.
just move away from the synthetic fibers altogether.
Hmm.
Getting
Right.
getting back to cotton, though, can you sort of compare and contrast maybe some of the differences in like production practices? Because I hear stories like cotton uses a whole lot more pesticides and a lot more water than hemp. I don't know if you can
Hmm.
sort of qualify any of that.
Hmm. Yeah, so for our fields in China, we don't irrigate. It's all done naturally, and it rains in China, so it yeah, that'll just grow.
Right.
As funny as it may sound, it'll grow. And we don't apply anything to the land as well. And we just collect it. I will say that I was part of growing hemp in California.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was part of that with Larry from Hemp Traders.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I assisted and I saw the hemp plants grow there. And so, yeah, that was done on the land of a cotton farmer. So this Tom, who was a farmer, he'd been growing cotton his entire life. So he has like all of the statistics to what it requires to grow cotton.
Hmm.
And so for us to go in there and to grow hemp, he was able to collect that data as well. And then we were able to compare water usage. This is specific to the Central Valley here in California.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
where we use a drip irrigation system. But yeah, we've heard claims of hemp using less water. And yeah, we proved that hemp used like 30% less water than cotton.
Wow.
And so 30%, when we're talking about thousands of acres and thousands of water being applied to the land, it's gonna be
Yeah.
a hefty amount.
Especially there in California, because there's like water rights issues and like
Mhm.
aquifer problems, and like you've had a drought for a very long time. So
Right.
yeah.
And when we're telling farmers that they can get 4 times like the amount of fiber per acre, I hope they can
Wow.
turn to hemp. Yeah, we got some incredible yields. And if you've seen a cotton plant, it's a short and stubby shrub.
Right.
Yeah, and when we have hemp plants that can reach 20 feet tall.
When they get that tall, though, is the fiber still usable for textiles?
It'll depend on how closely they're planted together and
Okay. Hmm.
how thin the stalk is. But yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
Hmm.
So how did you get involved in hemp in the first place?
Right. It started in college. I went to I'll give a quick rundown of my college experience.
Okay.
So I'm from Los Angeles, to be specific, South Central, which is like a rough side of Los Angeles. And so college came around and I knew I wanted to get out of this area, and there was more to the world. And
Yeah.
so I applied to San Francisco, where I was there for 2 years, and I was doing interior design. And this is where it connects now to like it being in fabric, which
Okay.
I love, and I'm happy to be here. And then I went abroad 1 year to Spain, where I was studying. I wanted to perfect my Spanish, so I was doing that. I took one course in environmental studies, and the first day of that class, the professor made me realize that we are nature and that there was no distinction between us. And so between us and all of the natural world, and it I it just hit home, and it just made such a big impact in me, like this conversation that he had with us. Um, and so that just made me take a step back and have a different perspective on the life I once knew. So I came back to the States after, took some time to settle back in, made my way back into community college. And this is where I was, hopping around, socializing, in club meetings. And so these twins come are in this meeting as well, and they tell me that they have a hemp club on this campus. And at first, I'm like, hemp? What is hemp? And then I'm sure it went something around the lines like, oh, it's cannabis. And then me being a cannabis enthusiast, I was like, this is amazing. And they happened to have met, have their club meeting that same day. So I went from this meeting on to the next one. And I walked into a room where people were gathering, and there was a table filled with hemp products. There was hemp particle board, there was hemp fabric, hemp plastics, and in its raw fiber. And this is where like the ideal was in front of me, where we can create homes, and we can furnish them, and their interiors can be made from these natural fibers. And it's sustainable, and it's this natural plant that it grows in 3 to 4 months, and we can collect its fibers, and it gives a large yield of fibers. And yeah, since that day, I was hooked. I've been on this hemp journey for about 5 years now. And together we organized workshops on this campus. They'd done a few workshops before I joined. So I joined them, and we continue to host more. And these were hempcrete workshops. So we were building small dog houses as small scale structures of what we can live in one day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really aligned with their vision to create low income housing here in Los Angeles. And I hope to one day fulfill that dream of ours. And then we just branched out into the different sectors that the community college offered to our students. So we went into culinary as well. For Thanksgiving, we held a big feast where we gathered with the culinary students to cook hemp foods. And we threw in hemp seeds, hemp flour, hemp seed oil. And again, it was a fantastic time. I look back to those days, and we were all just thriving and just educating and spreading the word of hemp. And people were happy to be a part of it. Something like this hadn't been done on this campus. We branched out into fashion as well. So we got some fabric from hemp traders, and we gave it to the students. They had the creative freedom to make any garment, any
Oh, wow.
style that they wanted to. And
What did they
we did
make?
encourage them. We had a hemp wedding dress.
Wow.
Yes, we had a hemp wedding dress. We had pants, we had suits, we had t-shirts. We had it all.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Would you be willing to share some photos of some of those items?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have some high
Cool. Well,
quality photos. We made sure it was well
yeah.
documented. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll put those on the website for the this episode page.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Can we go back to Spain and how the professor made you think about, your connection to nature a little bit more? Was
Mm-hmm.
that like you grew up in the city and you just hadn't considered the natural world, or like tell me more about like sort of what the idea was and how it changed how you saw your place in the world?
Um, yeah, definitely being a city child, you just grow up differently. You grow up disconnected from nature. To access a park here, it can take you unnecessary time. We really should have nature steps away from us. Um, but it wasn't accessible. There are not many green spaces where I grew up. Not even trees planted like by down the street,
Yeah.
some more than others. But yeah, it definitely disconnects you from nature. Thankfully, I did have my parents and their continuous efforts to make a yearly trip to Mexico. Yeah, that was the one trip I made out of the year where we
Yeah.
went to go visit family.
Okay.
And this was like deep in the mountains of Mexico in a small ranch where my parents are from.
Wow.
Yeah, and so my dad was a farmer as a child, and his father, my grandfather, was also a farmer. So so yeah, and now that I'm older, I definitely see how the city can disconnect you from the beauty that nature can hold. Um, and yeah, as I sat in this classroom in Spain, he spoke with such intensity, and he just like unveiled the beauty and the importance of protecting nature. Um, and as I thought about like this podcast and like that moment that just shifted everything for me, and how one person and how one moment can have such an impact on another. um it's incredible, and like it says so much for itself, how one person, how you and I and all these interactions that we have with others. And as I was on this college campus introducing hemp to other people, and how their minds were blown away, that they're like, where was this information?
Right.
Like, why
Right.
did I know of it? And it's like, okay, now we know, like, where do we take it from here?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Where in Spain were you?
I was in the south of Spain, Granada.
Okay.
Yeah, Granada.
And what was the sort of the environment like there? Was it rural? Was it urban?
It was a small to medium-sized city.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it was a historic town. So we were walking through these streets that were, built with rock, and where there was a lot of history with like a Jewish quarter there, and there were also like the side where like the Muslims lived as well. And yeah, the crown of the city was a palace, Islamic palace. I encourage everybody to go
Wow.
there.
A lot of fascinating history there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said you went to sort of work on your Spanish. Did you succeed? Do you have better Spanish now?
I sure do. Yeah. And yeah, I went abroad to try and like merge my career in interior design and
Hmm.
to work in Latin America in interior design. Um, and and yeah, I still have hopes of one day. And I feel like with being with Hemp Fortex, I'm also like a branch out into Latin America.
Okay.
Since I do know Spanish, I'm able to communicate to all of these Spanish brands and people who are interested in sustainable fabrics, and to introduce hemp fabrics to them, and which we have done.
Right.
We have made our way to an expo in Mexico where we introduced hemp fabrics to some of the designers out there,
Oh, cool.
and we got some pretty good feedback as well.
Nice. Nice. What role does hemp play in interior design, or is it? I mean, do people use it for upholstery, or like, how does it fit? Because I imagine like it's a versatile fabric. We could use it everywhere, right?
Hmm. Right. Curtains, lampshades, bed sheets, your your comforter. Some people go as far as covering their walls with fabric.
Oh,
So
wow. Hmm. Okay.
yeah, there's fabric wallpaper out there, so it can be used for that as well. Um, and yeah, upholstery would be another one as well, one of the main ones, having a couch and chairs made from it. And it can make its way into your kitchen as well, have your napkins made from it, and your placemats.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hand
table
towels,
linen.
all that. Right.
Yeah, towels. Hmm.
Do you know of any people using hemp in interior design now, or like could you be a pioneer in this space?
There are a few, um, but I will say, like a lot of the hemp industry, it's going to be for hemp in interiors, it's going to be a smaller population um, who are currently manufacturing and making hemp products from that. Hmm.
Okay.
But yeah, I hope they continue to grow and
Right.
expand and grow in their markets. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, so you were telling me a little bit about your, the college experience and how you got into hemp. So,
Hmm.
and then you mentioned hemp traders. Can you talk about some of the other work you've done in the hemp space before you got to Hemp Fortex?
Yeah. Um, as we're hosting events at the college campus, one of them was geared towards entrepreneurship. And this is when we invited Lauren Serbin from Hemp Traders, who luckily is in the LA area. And so, yeah, we invited him to speak and to share his experience in the hemp industry and of his business. And so, yeah, since I was helping organize the event, I knew who Larry was. And so I saw him walk in and I greeted him. I'm like, welcome. This is going to be your home for the next few hours. And so, yeah, almost immediately we got to talking and he was like, you know what? We can use some help at the office. How about you come in for an interview? And I was like, I would be delighted to.
Nice.
Absolutely. And so I made my way into the interview, got hired, and it was part-time. So it was about, I don't know, 8 hours a week. I think I went in for like 2 days sometimes. I was still in college and organizing a lot of the hemp events. So that took up some of my time and it was a commute away, but we made it work. Um, and yeah, I started off with helping make sample swatches of the fabric, which was very helpful because I got a chance to get to know the fabrics.
Right.
Hemp Traders has about 100 different fabrics available, um, and they're all in their natural state, what is known as prepared for dye. So it's sold in its natural state, and then the customers then are given the power to choose a dye that they want to go into their fabric or keep it as natural, which I appreciate a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I'm sitting in front of these 100 different fabrics, and they're all in their natural state, which is like an off-white color. So it can get a little confusing, and if you misplace one, you're like, oh no, which one was it? So it made me like zoom in to this fabric and like look at its construction and like, oh, this one is this fabric.
Oh,
Yeah, and it
yeah.
was it's a really nice experience because I got to know the fabrics and it was a really good starting ground. So yeah, I assisted with that and with some packaging and just getting things if they needed an extra hand, I would help out with that. Made my way into shipping and so yeah, I then knew like most of the process. And then COVID hit. We all went home for a while. Um, and then I knew I wanted to continue to be involved with hemp traders. And so I proposed to Larry that I help and assist them with their social media. Yeah, they didn't have much of a presence online, and I knew that having a presence online, it just meant so much more. It
Right.
just
At
meant
this
that
point,
the
it's a
company
big thing.
exists
Yeah. Hmm.
and that they're active and that they're continuing to do things. And so yeah, Larry accepted, and so I was able to do more of this like work from home and also go into the office to collect some footage and gather some content. And it went great. Then we went on to doing like more educational videos for YouTube, where Larry and I would brainstorm these topics and the best way to communicate these ideas. And so yeah, on Hemp Trader's social media, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. There is so much information on there that we've shared on hemp fabrics and also on growing hemp in California. And it was a great time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then, yeah, it transitioned into being on the ground and on the hemp field. And I then transitioned into doing like longer edits and longer videos for this series of growing hemp in California. Um, and then yeah, it came to a halt. And that's when I was recommended by a colleague to assist Hemp Fortex at these expos. And yeah, for the first few months of being involved with Hemp Fortex, I was only assisting with trade shows and expos.
Mm-hmm.
There was the one in Denver, and then there were a few more abroad. So there was one in Paris and one in Germany that I assisted.
Those must have been fun, right? Right?
They sure were. Yeah, they sure were. It was interesting because I was representing this company who is so grand, and I was only learning about it, and I was trying to make it justice, and I was like trying to express and communicate to the people who would visit us at our booth how great we were. Yeah.
That's cool. So a couple of things there. First, you were talking about like mixing up the fabrics and then like developing, I guess like a tactile gift for knowing what the different fabrics are. And like I imagine you've developed that further now. Like you can just like go in blindfolded and tell what kind of fabric is what.
Ooh, that I'm not at that level just yet.
Okay. Okay.
Because yeah, so it's tactile and also visual.
Okay.
Um and yeah, I'm developing both of those. And yeah, with Hemp Vortex, when I tell you that we have thousands of fabrics, it can be one of the thousands.
Right.
So
Okay. But you
I
can't go in and be like, that is 27A, or whatever. No, you can't do that yet. Not yet. Someday
not
you'll have
just
that.
yet. I think
Okay.
the 100% hemp I can.
Okay.
That one is gonna be one of the more that you're like, oh, I just know it's this one. And yeah, it would just be easier to pick and to like gather fabrics when somebody's like, oh, I'm looking for this fabric. I know how to jump into like the pile of hundreds and like, oh, they're looking for this one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
This is
Hmm.
maybe a weird question, but does hemp fabric smell different than other fabrics?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say it might even be more pleasant than some.
Oh,
Like
okay.
if you know some synthetics
Oh,
can
yeah.
have a very strong
Like off gassy plastic
scent.
smell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Hmm.
And Larry Serban, I met him, I think once at NOCO 2 years ago, but there's like a famous picture of him, right? Like standing in front of super tall hemp, possibly the tallest hemp ever grown. Did he actually
Right.
get the Guinness record for that? Do you know?
It's still in process. We're talking to Guinness,
Okay.
and there's still like some of this hysteria behind cannabis and not being able to distinguish cannabis grown for its flower and cannabis grown for its fibers and a crop.
See, I'm not buying that because I know you
Yeah,
can tell it. Tell it. There's a big
right.
difference between hemp grown for fiber and hemp grown for flour. But
Yeah.
I digress. You mentioned meeting a set of twins at the college campus, and I
Right.
imagine they are known as the Hemp Twins, right? Can you tell me about the Hemp Twins? Because I met them, I think, around the same time I met you in Colorado.
Yeah, yeah, they sure are. the infamous Hemp twins. Yeah, now these twins, they've got a big heart. They really do. And that is the reason why I was drawn to them, and I stood by them, and we organized together. And like I mentioned, them wanting to host these workshops to get more people involved, and what it meant, like what it means to hold a workshop, to hold a space where you invite people to gain information that they didn't have before, and also that it was hands-on. Nowadays, we're not all too like active and doing things and creating with our hands and with our bodies. And so I really appreciated these workshops and what it meant for people to get down on their knees and to get dirty and to get to know the material with with the goal of inviting people, and in the hopes of that as well, that even some investment or people with like higher positions, general contractors, or someone who is planning to build something, that they would get interest in this material and to choose to build with hemp, and to fall in love with the material like we have, and to see it for what it is, and all of its properties. Um, and and yeah, I mean they are the ones that again they learned about this building material in their architecture class, and they just put one they just saw they put one and one together, and it's like we can make a club on this campus where we can get funding. It's so strategic. I mean, you want to have and invite in all these people. So we were an established club on this campus that required also educating all of the staff on this campus that yes, you hear the word cannabis and hemp and associate with marijuana. And it's like, no, let us show you the other side of the coin. And so yeah, they went on this journey to educate the people on this campus. They got a club established, and as an established club, receive funding for events that this club would like to host. And yeah, we just put down the list of expenses, which was like, buckets and gloves and goggles and hemp hurd and lime in there. And yeah, most of it was covered. And I love the fact that at all of our events, we had food to serve as well. Yeah. Uh, there
Like
was a survey
hemp
that was
food?
done. Yeah,
Yeah.
hemp food.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a survey that was done across Los Angeles Community College that showed that a high number of students were on the verge of homelessness, and were suffering food insecurities. So I really appreciate that at all of our events, we had a plate to serve to whoever was walking by, whether you attended or not. You
Oh,
just
wow.
walking by. It was like, please have this plate of food. And so yeah, things like that. There was meaning behind those events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the hemp twins' names?
Yes, the hemp twins are Noemi and Abigail Cuevas.
Noemi and Abigail Cuevas.
Last name Cuevas. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, give a shout out to them.
Yes, wherever they are, big shout out.
Yeah.
Love you.
So you live in LA, and you sort of described a little bit there, but like, is there like a growing sense among like regular people that hemp is is the way to go, or like are you're making an impact? Like how are regular people sort of interfacing with hemp?
Ooh, I felt that I was able to better measure that when we were organizing in person.
Hmm.
Yeah, because then I was able to keep track of the amount of people who we were encountering. And Los Angeles is such a large city. A very small fraction of the people here know of hemp. But I would say it is. And like all of those seeds that we planted and all of those people that we informed of hemp, yeah, they must have also passed on that information on to others one way or another. And there are other people organizing here as well. For example, in regards to building with hemp, there are other people who are also in the building industry and who are turning to hemp as well to build with it. And there are LA brands who are currently designing and have hemp garments. Even before I came into the picture with Hemp Fortex,
Mm-hmm.
they had already reached the hemp fabric. And so yeah, with me now being um with me now joining Hemp Vortex, I hope to expand what it means to clothe yourself and house yourself, feed yourself with hemp. Now that I'm involved with Hemp Vortex, I hope to reach a larger audience. One way or another, we'll find our way to reach them. And yeah, set up meetings, set up more events as well to invite people. Like fashion shows are a total thing with Hemp Vortex. And yeah, make them a good time and for people and to gain interest and to choose hemp. Mhm.
Can you talk about some of Hemp Vortex's customers? Like, are there big, international brands that are buying up lots of hemp to make cool stuff?
Yeah, one of our biggest customers is Patagonia.
Right.
So if you go onto Patagonia's website or visit their stores and search up hemp, um, yeah, that's all coming from us. And Patagonia has been a customer of ours for many years now, and they are definitely one of the first to have adapted hemp and taken it to the next level. And they really do a lot to educate. They have a lot of educational content online as well. Hemp farming here in the US and are pushing for hemp being grown here in the US. And something that we that my colleague says is that we will move in the way that our customers want us to move. If Patagonia is asking us to use more recycled materials, we will use more recycled materials. If Patagonia is asking us to source hemp from the US, we will source hemp from the US.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's something we're working towards. It's definitely going to be in the future. But again, it's something we're working towards yearly. Every year we get a chance to grow hemp and to gain insights and to further develop and take it to the next step. And so, yeah, thankfully every year we get a chance to further develop this.
Looking ahead to the future, where do you hope to be, or like what are your dreams? What else do you want to do? I imagine you want to stay in hemp, but like I don't know, what do you dream
Mhm.
about?
The dream is to have a hemp home. The furniture is made from hemp. I'm wearing hemp in this hemp home. Um, I wake up and I have myself some oatmeal with some hemp seeds. And I step outside to my hemp field and a garden. Um, and yeah, that's a personal dream, but I hope that we can create centers of this sort, educational centers, low income housing, um, and yeah, just house people in hemp. Um, it really is a dream to get more people housed in hemp and to live healthy lives. We know that the materials that surround us can be toxic. So if we clothe ourselves in natural fibers, and we can just live healthier lives.
Yeah, amen to
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
A couple of weeks ago, I interviewed some folks from the Lower Sioux Indian community in Minnesota,
Mhm.
And that's what they're doing. They're growing hemp, processing it there, and then turning it into houses. I mean, they're just in the beginning of the process now,
Yeah.
but it's such an inspiring story that, like Earl Pendleton, I guess he's like the vice president of the tribal council, just has inspired the whole community. And yeah, they're going to rebuild the community with hempcrete. It's really just a great
Mhm.
story. So yeah,
Awesome.
it is so nice to talk to you. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Is there anything else like you want to share with us, or something that you think our listeners might want to hear? Like maybe if they're interested in working with Hemp Fortex, what's the best way to do that?
Right. So I can send over my email and the best way I can be reached. Yeah, if someone is interested in getting hemp fabric for themselves, we also have a retail portion to our business. So where there is, you can get as little as to 1 yard.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah, Hemp Fortex is the larger company. So when we speak of Hemp Fortex, we're speaking of higher quantity, higher volumes. A minimum order for Hemp Fortex would be about 2,000 yards.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but what we've done to make it more accessible to others, started a second business to have our retail fabric on there where you'll find the same qualities, and anywhere from 100% hemp in knits and wovens to any blends of hemp and cotton, recycled materials, and others. And the website for that is bastine.com.
Spell that for me.
Um,
Bastine.
IN, yeah,
Okay.
as in bast
Yep.
fiber,
Yep.
so Bastine.
Bastine. All right. Well, we'll put those links on the show page for this episode.
Hmm.
So cool. Well, Alejandra Diaz, thank you so much for your time today. It's great to talk to you again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you get back from China, let's schedule a call so you can tell us all about that experience.
Please, I would be delighted to as well.
All right, there you go. That's the show for this week. Thank you for listening. If you ever want to get in touch with me for any reason, for commentary or questions, or you just want to chat, you can always get in touch with me at podcast@lancasterfarming.com. My name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. You can also get a subscription to our print edition, and we will send you out a paper copy every week. And if you want to see photos of the hempcrete panels that we're making, you can check them out on Instagram at Industrial Hemp Podcast, or you can go to the page on lancasterfarming.com. All right, so that does it for me. Until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper. Season 3, episode 17, I think, is copyright 2023 by Lancaster Farming newspaper, which is part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written and recorded, edited and produced by Eric Herlock. The music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow. Hey, you're still here? All right, good. Well, just real quick, when I was out at the NOCO Hemp Expo, I was sort of doing a casual survey, among people who told me that they were listeners to our show. And I asked people, would you still listen to the show if it wasn't always about hemp? And some people said, nah, I'm just here for the hemp. But other people said that they would be interested in following some other stories. So just a heads up, I am working on something. I'm not sure where it's going to go or where it's going to land or if it's even going to be a part of the hemp podcast. But I am embarking on sort of an exploratory journalism project that's going to involve, well, journalism, farming, possibly hemp, but maybe not, Shetland fiddle music, neuroplasticity, imposter syndrome, all sorts of great stuff. So this is just sort of my, subtle announcement that there's something else that I'm working on. We're also working on an actual Lancaster Farming newspaper podcast. So more details on both of these projects at some point in the future. But yeah, the little piece of music you heard is a Shetland fiddle tune played on the ukulele. So anyway, all right, something's happening here. All right, anyway, gotta go. See ya.